Alright, so it's the next day after pulling the head. We've got her cleaned up pretty good. I have not cleaned the engine yet, just because I haven't climbed on top of the combine today. There's our good Motorcraft spark plugs. And got the intake and exhaust ports cleaned up pretty good. I'm going to wash it down, get it clean as I can, and then we'll get it hoisted up on there or call the neighbor for his tractor again. He was here earlier and I helped him on his tractor lights, but then he had to do something with his boy, which I'm not going to tell him, to not hang out with his kid. So stick with us and hopefully we'll get this thing fired up today. Another quick note before I start cleaning up the mating service. So if you watched the last video, you'll see that our science experiment, see how that entire towel is green? That's because, all the way down to the bottom, that's because it wicked out every bit of coolant in that hole. At least to where the towel's touching. So, yeah, just a way to drain a hole that you have no way to drain. Yeah, I'm just chucking it off, but we'll pick it up later or eventually, I guess. So, just put the cylinder head back up on my neighbor's bucket now. He has a bucket. Climbing up a ladder with a handrail in one hand. It works. So, there we go. We'll get her up here and get started. Alright, so now that it is dark and about 50, maybe 55 degrees, I've got the engine all cleaned up, got the intake manifold all cleaned up, getting ready to put the gasket on. I have to oil the bolts. I still have to find a torque wrench. I know where it's at, I just realized that I have to climb back off the combine to get it. Yay. So, yeah, cylinder head shined up really good. Block cleaned up really good. I am going to go ahead and put some penetrating oil in the cylinders, because it has sat, and you can see there's some flash rust, and that's not from rain or anything like that. It's just anytime you have truly bare metal exposed to the atmosphere, you get what you call flash rust. So let me get that done, and maybe I can get this thing bolted on. I don't know if I'll get it running tonight or not. It just depends on how things go and how fast and efficient I'm working. I know I have to find a spark plug wire because I broke one. So our mating surfaces are clean, the gasket's on, fit is good. I guess maybe I could try to see if I can prop you up here, and I'm going to set the head on it. Yeah, sorry for that poor camera angle. My mount broke. Oh, goodness. It is hard doing all this stuff by yourself, let me tell you. Looks like that's about right. Now I'll have to do some wiggling. Sorry, yeah, I just set it on there. I don't know if you saw that or not. Looks like we'll have to... Okay, we're on one dowel. We are on both dowels. Let me get my bolts rolled up and slid in here, and we'll get back to it. So today is the next night. It's actually 2 nights later. So I had something to do yesterday, and after I did set the head on there, my light was going dead. My wife told me that supper was done, and I went in and had supper and spent some time with the kids. So now we've got to get our bolts oiled up. Here's our can. There's our bolts. They're obviously dry. So you don't want to put head bolts on dry, ever. And all I'm going to do is kind of recycle some engine oil here. Yeah, that'll have to be addressed. I mean, it's got moisture in it from where, it's sat with no head on it and stuff. And all summer and everything else. And I really thought I'd be able to get more oil off that, to be honest. Let's try one more. If it's going to go like that, I'm going to have to get some other kind of oil. So that's going to take forever with as many bolts as we got. That's okay, it's going on there now. All the bolts on this was the same length. So let us get all these dropped in there, and then we'll show you us torquing them. Another thing, so as we started dunking it, we're getting a lot better oil. Probably just had an air bubble. Another thing you should want to do, including, or along with, I guess, oiling your bolt threads, oil the bolt heads. And this is just another way. Anytime you need just a little bit of something to get a bolt started, well, just grab the dipstick. Because if you're good enough with your equipment, it has some oil on it. Alright, so I can't get the torque wrench in on all of the intake manifold bolts. So what I'm going to do is, I tried to do this already, but if you just, I've done this before, if you hold your wrench at the end of your torque wrench, and then when you tighten the torque wrench, make sure that's where you're holding it, and it kind of gives you at least some kind of a sense as to how tight you have to tighten your wrench when you're in an area where you cannot get your torque wrench. Which a good example of that will be this area. Which, go figure, we started the video and this bolt's like out probably an inch. But we'll get her one way or another. So we got the intake on. That was butchered because I can't get to 3 of the bolts to torque them. So I just kind of went with it, and I'm sure it'll be fine. It's not super crucial like a cylinder head. But we kept the push rods from this engine because it had different rocker arms, different size studs, which apparently that's a thing with the 300 straight 6. I don't know, I'm not a Ford guy. And the push rods can be different lengths depending on what size stud you have. So I'm putting my push rods in and trying to get a leaf out. And then I'm gonna try, as stupid as this sounds, we're just gonna try it. I'm gonna try to not adjust these rockers. We didn't unadjust them when we took the head off of the junkyard engine. All we did is loosen the head. And my thought was, if you watch that video where the hood couldn't be opened because of the car on top of the truck we took the engine out of, I wasn't really going to be able to get up in there and pry. So I relied on valve spring pressure when I took the last bolt out to break the head gasket seal, and just made it easier for us to remove. That being said, I did not adjust them, like I said, and I'm going to see if I've got lifter noise or valves hanging open or anything like that when we start this one up. Alright, so remember I said I was not going to adjust any of these. I didn't unadjust them when I took the head off, and I'm having a problem getting them back on, but they actually make a tool that you would put on the rocker, and it would kind of like be forks that go like that, and you would pry down on it. I don't have that tool, so we have a pry bar. We tried a screwdriver. I tried like leaning on it real bad, you know. That was to no avail, and believe it or not, my wife, Patricia Blackburn, wannabe farmer's wife, she was like, well, what if you just pry from one spring to the other? And we've got 5 on so far, so here we go. We'll see what we can get done. Now, you want to try to keep it over the valve a little bit as much as you can. I know you probably can't see that very good, because if you don't, what can happen is you can compress the spring, and if you compress the spring without holding the valve can actually come up. It can ride up. And these 2 little locks, maybe you can see that, these 2 little locks that hold near valve locks. If you know anything about cars or engines in general, you know what valve locks are. Those can come loose, and I actually experienced that on one of these over here. This one that is not done yet, over here.
Oh,
thanks,
sorry.
honey. It's okay. This one I haven't put on yet because I was having problems, and when I pushed the spring down, the valve was wanting, it's not stuck, like sticking, but the valve is wanting to do funny business. So we're going to do that one last, I guess. Yeah, and this is all I'm doing is, oops. Yeah, trying not to have a pry bar fly off and go through my eye. Seems to be working, maybe. Of course, I get all these on there, and then you're looking at it like, oh yeah, sure. He's just like that. See, we'll wait on that one because he's on the end. We'll wait on that one because it was being a pain in the butt. It also widely depends on, like, some of these rockers are down, some of them are up. You can't really tell that because the push rods, or I'm sorry, the lifters are bled off from the engine sitting. But once you would start it up, they would be widely different from one another. You know, like some cylinders might have both rockers down, some cylinders might have both of them up for a brief period of time, or typically just one up more than the other. But this is how I'm doing it. It's working so far. Get one like that, you just give him a smack, he pops into place. So let's get the rest of these done. We'll get the valve cover on. I got a spark plug wire to fix. I may not get this thing started tonight because I got to put the belts and stuff on and fix the spark plug wire. But in the next video, I'll show you how to fix a spark plug wire. And that will be the last thing I have to do, other than change the oil, which will be a trip in itself, before we fire it up. So stick with us. Come back for more. If you like what you're watching, give me the thumbs up. If you want to watch more, subscribe. Hit the little bell thing. That's what people have been saying anyways. And I'd appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you.